Okay, well, good morning, 8th grade. I hope you are doing well. I'm hopefully working on grading your tests, so you should get those back soon. But we are on a new lesson today, 11.2, and this is on radical equations, okay? So we talked about radicals yesterday, and that's the square root symbol, right? Square root. So we're on page 457. Hopefully that will look cool. Square root of 457. Don't know what that is. Not very important. But we're on 457, and we talked about this symbol, right? The square root symbol, the radical symbol. So one of the really cool things that we can do with radicals is we can solve them like a normal equation, right? What if we had x plus 5 equals 8? How would we solve for x in this case? Well, this is a throwback to our many months of actually being in person. First thing, we have to do the opposite sign, right? This is a plus, so we'd have to do a minus 5, and we get x equals 5 minus, or 8 minus 5, which is 3. I don't know why I wrote the word 8 there, which is 3. Okay, so we would get x equals 3. Now that's easy to do. There's nothing to do with a radical sign, right? But here is how we could solve one that had a radical sign. So this is about to get radical, if you know what I mean. What if we had the radical, the square root of x plus 5 equals 8? Okay, the only thing that's different in this problem is that now we have this guy here. Well, the reality is we solve it the exact same way, okay? So I need to write that down. Exact same. Yay! Nothing new really to learn. It's the exact same way. All we do is we say, how do we get this by itself? Same exact question. We do minus 5. We get the square root of, x is equal to 3. But the problem is we don't really care what the square root of x is. We don't really want to know that. We want to know what is x by itself. And this is where the new lesson comes into play. All we do to get this x by itself when it has this sign, the radical sign, is we put parentheses around it and we square it. Okay, that's all we do. Because what happens is when we have the square root of x and then we square it, okay, think about this, that basically erases everything except for the x. And that's what we wanted. So that's what it does. When you take the square root of something, right? What's the square root? The square root of 64 is 8. Then think about this. What's 8 squared? 64. Ooh. So when we square it, it gets rid of this thing right here. It goes away, and we're just left with the inside. So on this back to this problem over here, when we do the squaring on this side, remember whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. And we just square the other side. So now this whole thing here turns into x. Isn't that pretty amazing? And that x equals, and then what is 3 squared? Well, that's just 9. So my final answer is x equals 9. Okay, that's just going to take some time. So let's do a simple one again. Your book example is, what if we have the square root of x equals 5? Well, in this case, all we're trying to find here is x. So all I do is, though undoing the opposite of the square root sign, is just squaring. That's all I have to do. Just like that. I write that. Now this instantly comes down to just x. And what is 5 times 5? 5 squared? 25. And there is my answer. Okay? So that's not very hard to understand. You guys definitely can do it. I believe in you. Now, this is where one of the interesting things in this lesson comes in. This is on page 458, and this is example 2, okay? So this is example 2, and it's this. We have the square root of x equals negative 8. Okay, now let's do the same thing. Let's square it here to solve for x. Square this. This side, right? When you square that, it all goes away, and you just get x equals, and what's negative 8 squared? Negative 8 times negative 8 is 64. Yay! The only problem is, we got to check that and see if that would work. Is the square root of 64 negative 8? No, the square root of 64 is positive 8. So this doesn't work. So the real answer here is not a solution. There's no way to solve that. We can't have anything square root that turns out to be a negative number, right? We can never get that negative 8. It's never going to happen. So that is not a solution. Okay, not possible. Okay, so one of the things that you really have to get used to here is checking your answer. So let's say we had the square root of x equals 7. Okay, how do I want to get this x by itself? Well, we've done this a lot of times. We're going to keep doing it. We square it. We square both sides. So this goes away, and I'm left with x equals, right? You see the square root sign gone. X equals, what's 7 times 7? 49. Well, that's fun, but I got to check my answer to make sure it works. So I come down here and I write the square root of 49. I plug it in for x up here. Does the square root of 49 equal 7? Yes. Cha-ching. Yay, it works. It's good to go. So that means my answer then is x equals 49. Okay, so now they're going to make it a little more complicated for you. Let's say that we do something like this. This is now example 3. Okay, so you're following along. This is example 3. Let's say that they have the square root of 3x, and then outside of the parentheses, plus 2 equals 8. Now again, we leave this guy alone until he's the last thing on the side. So we're trying to get him alone. The way we do that is we subtract 2, right? That's normal algebra. We get the square root of 3x equals now 6. Now again, we got to get rid of we can't do anything in here until this sign is gone. And the way to get that sign away is to square it. So we got to square both sides, and now it's going to go away. So boom, sign is gone, square is gone, and we get 3x equals, what's 6 times 6? 36. Then I just do my normal algebra, divide by 3, and I get x equals, what's 36 divided by 3? 12. I get x equals 12. Now the way I check it is I come back up here with this equation, and I do the square root of 3 times 12 plus 2 equals 8. Okay? Now what is 3 times 12? Well, that's 36, and I have the square root of 36 plus 2 equals 8. What is the square root of 36? That's 6 plus 2 equals 8. And 6 plus 2 is 8, so 8 equals 8, which means the answer is x equals 12. So don't write 8 equals 8 as your answer. That just proves, cha-ching, that we did it. This right here is how you write your answer. X equals 12. Okay, let's do a similar one. This is now example 4. Okay, so example 4. And this one is the square root of 10 plus x, all under the sign here, the radical sign, plus 6 equals 7. Now again, I'm trying to get this whole thing by itself. So the first thing I need to do is subtract 6. I get rid of that, and I get the square root of 10 plus x, all underneath that bar, equals 1. Now this instance, what do I do here? I am squaring this to get rid of the radical sign. The radical sign is gone, boom, gone, and the square is gone. I get 10 plus x equals, what's 1 times 1? It's still 1. Now I have x by itself, so I need to subtract 10, and I get x equals, what is 1 minus 10? Negative 9. Now that's my answer, negative 9, but I need to check it. So I come over here and I write the square root of 10 minus 9 plus 6 equals 7. What is 10 minus 9? Well, that's 1. The square root of 1 plus 6 equals 7. What's the square root of 1? Well, that's 1. 1 plus 6 equals 7. Yes, that's true, because 7 equals 7. Yay! So my answer is right here in the blue. X equals negative 9. Okay, so it's just like solving normal equations that we've been doing all year, except for now we have the square root symbol. Okay, let's do another example. We're going to get some practice with this. The next example here is example 5. EX5. This is negative 4 times the square root of x equals 28. Now, you can think of this 4 is like times the x, because that's what is happening here. So what we need to do is we've got to get this x by itself. So the first step here is to divide by minus 4. Divide by negative 4. Does everybody see that? Just like we would have done if it would have been negative 4x equals 28, we would have divided by negative 4. It's the same exact thing happening. We just ignore this radical sign for right now, okay? So I'm going to erase this so it doesn't confuse us. So what that goes away, and we are now left with the square root of x equals negative 7. Right, 28 divided by negative 4 is negative 7. Now I square this, squared, squared, but look at this, this was a negative, so I know it's not going to work, but I'm going to x equals 49. But now I need to check that and see if it would work. I know it's not going to, though, because of that negative sign right there, right? I'm going to have negative 4 times the square root of 49 equals 28. Okay, so then I do what's in here, the square root of 49. I get negative 4 times the square root of 49 is 7 equals 28. But oh, look at this. Negative 4 times 7 is actually negative 28. And negative 28 does not equal 28. So that means, boom, boom. And the answer is simply this: no real solution. Or not a solution. No real solution. It's impossible. Sadly, we can't do it. Okay? So, those are all the different types of problems you could encounter. Let's do one more. 4 times the square root of 2x plus 1, all into the square root, equals 24. Okay, in this case, I need to get this by itself first. So I'm going to divide by 4. Divide by 4. Boom, that goes away. I get the square root of 2x plus 1 equals 6. Now, I still need to get that by itself, so what am I going to do? Square that, square this. What happens now is that this whole thing goes away, including the squared mark, and I get 2x plus 1 equals, what, 6 times 6? 36. I subtract 1. Boom, subtract 1. I get 2x equals 35. And when I have 2x equals 35, what do? I divide by 2, divide by 2, and I get x equals 17.5. Okay, and there is my final answer. And the way I check that, right, is I come up here, and I'm going to erase this, so if you need to go back and pause it, go ahead and do that. I come up here, and I say 4 times the square root of 2 times 17.5 plus 1, okay, that's in parentheses, equals 24. Now, what is 2 times 17.5? Well, that's 35, right? So I have 35 plus 1, which is 36. So I have 4, whoa. So I have 4 times the square root of 36 equals 24. What's the square root of 36? That is 6. So I have 4 times 6, and 4 times 6 does equal 24, all proving that this, in fact, is the right answer. Okay, so here's our homework for today. This is on 11.2. This is page 459. You're doing 1 through 31 odd. Okay, 1 through 31 odd. Okay, please let me know if you have any questions, concerns. Like I said, I should be grading your test here shortly, so you should be getting that back. Okay, Mr. H is over and out.